And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Sipshan people. Words are the building blocks of any communication. They contain information not only about language, but also about culture. Many minority languages around the world are crippled by the fact that no dictionary exists in the language. We begin today's Open Connection with Haisla Elder Nelson Grant.
The rapid word collection, we've had 2 workshops on this rapid word with Larry Hayashi.
Dr. Hayashi, yeah.
And it was very well done. As you could see in the video, that we collected 10,000 words. For a new dictionary that getting away from the phonetics of the linguist's way of writing things. What our goal is that we write the word like how we say it, rather than having all these little marks, because a lot of people don't understand the phonetics. So what the plan is that we'll get rid of most of that, but there are some words we just can't get rid of those little markings on top, and because of like the E and the I and the U, and because of the different sounds that they use, or we make. Like the U can sound like an O or just a U. So, but we did have 2 weeks on the first one, which this film here showed that we were broken up into different groups. I think we had 6 groups that were going over different topics of the Haisla language. Like I said, the goal is just to make it readable for a lot of people, especially our people. We don't have very many left fluent speakers. At one time we had over 200, now we're down to 80. So that's why it is very important for us to get all this done and teach people the language, the Haisla language. It's done in our school, but the problem is that we don't have it in any other schools right now. And right now we're doing the language to get, I think they have 6 people that are taking it to get their diploma in the Haisla language. So to do this and then get their diploma, then they will be able to go into different schools and teach the language to the students in elementary, high school, whatever school they're asked to go to. So now we are Haisla. Haisla means on the other side, which meant on the other side of the river. That's what Haisla means. We do have another name because it's like Tsimotsa. We use that in our village because we come from Tsimotsa. And because when they were doing the village, all these snags and stumps were just dumped down the beach. So that's what it meant. Timos was all the stumps down the beach. So, and then came Gitamat. It came from the Shimshian people when they came to our reserve, because when we were growing up, the snow was very deep, and all I seen was the heads of people walking through the trails in the village. So we became Gitamat, meaning people of the snow.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. In the past, the Canadian government's education policy has been a tool of oppression, but it also can be a tool of liberation founded on First Nations control over education. This will provide the means to acquire necessary skills to be self-empowered and self-efficient and maintain First Nations cultural values and languages. Let us return to the conversation with Rebecca David.
Hello everybody, I'm Rebecca David. My traditional name is Celicia. I'm from Pockwitchin First Nation, and I'm the Executive Director of the First Nations Education Foundation. And the history, a little bit of the brief peanut shell of that is, I guess originally I was a former chief of Pockwitchin, and I served at the BC AFN, and then I got appointed at the AFN level for the National Indian Brotherhood. So the National Indian Brotherhood funds a lot of different projects across Canada in each of the regions, and about 3 years ago I was a board of trustee at the time, and I was approached. These were one of the projects that I funded, and yeah, this project happened a few years ago, and to watch it, where it's come from now to where it is, it's huge. Our foundation is a federally funded, or it's a federal charity, sorry. I get a little nervous when I'm speaking at times. But yeah, the First Nations Education Foundation, that's how I came on board. I'm new to the foundation. I came on about maybe March roughly, so I'm starting to learn to work with different communities. And what we do is our team, I'm visual, so what I pick as our team, what we do is we create MOUs, so Memorandum of Understanding with communities, and we go and chase dollars basically through the foundation to get money for language and to create language projects in community. So the whole essence of language is huge, because for me as a former chief, I look at language being a foundation of any of our communities. And so the direction that we're moving in is creating that language sovereignty and having the accessibility for our members, whether you're on or off reserve, near or far. Each community that has a language project will be able to kind of create their own language cloud and allow members, whether they're near or far, to start accessing and learning language rather than having to go and get their diplomas and degrees. But it's more accessible because language is an inherent right, and that's what I firmly believe in. And so language is really huge because it's sharing and transferring the knowledge around culture and our worldviews and tradition. So the time and the essence of what we lose with every elder. As Nelson shared, they had quite a bit of numbers for elders, and now they're down to 80. Well, my community itself is about a community of 400 people, and we don't have that many elders. So again, it is I can understand the challenges for communities in terms of where we're at with language revitalization to reclamation. And being able to reclaim where we're at and have all of these documented, all of these stories in the history, because it's really valuable and it's something that we're losing with each elder. So that's as a component that's hard, because we're running out of time to be able to capture the history and the stories. And our younger generation is going to be that much empowered to be able to have that identity and that recognition of having their language. And that's something that we're striving for at the First Nations Education Foundation, is to really help communities collect a lot of that data, the archiving, and switching everything to digitizing, and being able to have recordings firsthand for the future generation to be able to learn from our current elders of today, and being able to pass that knowledge and that history down.
The partnerships between nations and industry. You're no stranger, Ledcor's no stranger to those partnerships. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about Ledcor and the partnership, and why a project like Language Revitalization in the Haisla territory is important to you guys.
Oh, for sure. Thanks, Ryan. First of all, I'd just like to say thank you, and really honored and thankful for being invited to sit here on behalf of Ledcor, just being one of the sponsors of the program. And our Ledcor Haisla partnership in Kitimat's been a strong partnership for us since 2011, and conversations back before that. So I also got to be careful with my responses here, because I said that to Nelson earlier, and he said if I had any wrong answers, he'd throw something at me. So no. So speaking of the partnership, so Ledcor Haisla, we've had a partnership since 2011. Done a lot of great work together. What's the root of the partnership is not just about economic development. It's about aligning in values and aligning in culture with the Haisla. And we do that through open communication, whether formal meetings, informal meetings, just regular touch points. It's about the economic development, but it's also about the education and about the culture and about sustained future and about growth and careers. So we really focus on that. And of course, that video is very moving, and as everybody would agree, and it really shows you and tells you the importance of the program, and that's why it was a no-brainer for us to support it once we were asked. And yeah, like what struck me about the video, like Nelson said, is how there used to be over 200 fluent speakers, and now there's only 80, and that just tells you how time is of the essence, and you really have to capture that now, right? And what also struck me is just how impressive it was how the Haisla mobilized to really make that happen and come together and really make it come to fruition, and capture that language and for future generations. So that's great. And again, I've been up in Kitimat now for about 4 years, just about 4 years. Actually moved up to Kitimat in 2019 with my wife, and we actually started a family up there. So it's always going to have a special place for us. And been involved since I got to Kitimat with the Haisla and with the Ledcor Haisla partnership. So yeah, it's Ledcor's strongest, longest standing, and definitely largest Indigenous community partner across our entire company across North America. So it's holds great value to us and importance, and I know it does for Haisla as well. And I think we're quite aligned in that way.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. Rapid word collection requires fluent speakers are brought together. Words are collected through a series of word association exercises added to a database, and audio recordings of each word is created. Let us return the conversation as Nelson Grant shares how COVID impacted their rapid word collection.
At least sit down and talk about, because we had to talk to the community about what the plan was, at the time it was, and it was a tough thing just to get the how many. We had 50 at that first, because of it was during the COVID thing, so we couldn't have more than that in the River Lodge, where we had the first session. But just to get the people out to do help with the language, the young kids, I always say all this has to start at home. The parents need to learn the language to teach their children. Their language, our language, whoever's language they have. I was just saying to Beck earlier, because she said, I understand it and I can say a few words. I said, well, if you can understand it, you have it there. Use it. Let it come out of your mouth. It's got to come out of your mouth. It's got to come from here to your mouth and out. So I'm going to come down to where she is and make sure that she learns her language.
I don't doubt that for a second.
So yeah, it's not an easy thing to get something like this started. We had with the first session we did 10,000 words, and and they wanted 30,000. But the 10,000 that we did was good. It was a big step for us to get that many words done, and I'm so happy that this happened within our community with the language and the university that they came from to do the hosting this big part of our language and getting it on its way to, like I said, you're right, it doesn't stop. Even with the COVID, our language just kept going. It just kept going. We didn't stop doing what we had to do for our language. Whatever barriers were there, we had to climb over it or go under it or go around it. And there were a lot. There were a lot. So it was good that we did this, and then we did the second one, which was even more, there was more participants then. We still had the COVID, but we still had a lot of participants, and that was on our reserve.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Responding to the Truth and Reconciliations Commission call to action number 13, the Indigenous Language Act received royal assent in 2019 to support the reclamation, revitalization, and maintaining and strengthening of Indigenous languages in Canada. In this final segment of Open Connection, Ryan Bruce shares some strategies communities are using to revitalize languages.
Language revitalization has been identified as a high priority of many nations. And so therefore there is work being done. There's good work being done out there, whether, as you've identified, in the schools and nursery rhymes. I know over in Cowichan, I know there's lots of work being done through nursery rhymes and other stories. Rebecca, can you shed some light on, if there's a nation interested in connecting with FNEF and the work you're doing, what can you do to kind of come alongside existing work, and how does that look like for you to support the work that's already happening?
Where I come in terms of being able to recognize, former leader in my community and the struggles, and as you hear other people that are in politics, of the struggles of communities, the finances, working under the Indian Act, working with the government. I recognize a lot of the challenges right at home, and as Nelson shared, I would be what you call a silent speaker. And right from silent speakers to active speakers, silent speakers understand the language and they don't speak it. The active speakers, they have a lot of people that are actively being able to speak the language, but trying to bridge those two together. And when I was approached by FNEF and learned a little bit more about what they do, again, as a former leader, I was always worried about the ownership of the language. Anytime someone comes in and helps a community, sometimes the ownership gets transferred and they don't actually own the language. But with FNEF, what we do is we work with community through the Memorandum of Understanding, and we're able to try and get funding, hopefully that we can get a project up and running in the community. So everything that we do with community is we're basically working hands-on. FNEF brings in a team, so here's a visual. Our team kind of comes in, and the visual is if colonization has basically locked us out of our language box. Everything, there's some in there that's suppressed language, there's some things that are historically still locked in the box, but FNEF, we're working with communities to come in and we help customize and shape language keys for any community to be able to unlock those things that have been suppressed, whether it's their history, their stories, their teachings, anything that they have of value that they want to put in that language box. It's really up to the community to decide what they're sharing. So when FNEF comes in, it's nothing about the community nothing without you, or nothing about you without you, and that's kind of where we're at. We don't talk about go any further with community unless the community gives us permission to work in those areas. And so at the end of the day, the foundation, when we work with the community, they're building community champions in their community to continue that legacy of teaching language and having it accessible for their members. So FNEF pulls away after the community and the project has already started, and it continues to grow in the community as we start to pull back, but our team is there to help customize and shape what their language would look like, and that's where we're coming in. And that language sovereignty part is really key, is the community owning that language and having the rights of who they're giving access to, whether it's on and off reserve members, or allowing them to be able to go on to the platform or the language cloud. So the visuals are being able to see elders recorded visually or just audio-y, in terms of being able to have that all documented and archived and put in digitization, so future children or the future of the membership is going to be able to access and hear firsthand from our elders of today that we're teaching and passing a lot of these stories and oral words down.
Is just this massive part of our identity that I feel like was overlooked for a long time due to a lot of traumas people have experienced, throughout history.
With First Nations people who have intergenerational effects from residential school.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but that connects from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.